Well, hello everyone. Cynthia Tomaine here with Interactive Brokers, and thank you for joining today's webinar where we're taking a look at the TWS Fundamental Analysis Tools. Now, Interactive Brokers has an information system that equips active traders with a robust arsenal of research tools powered by a variety of Tier 1 content providers. You can take advantage of the low-cost, comprehensive research essentials bundle with reduced pricing on 7 key bundled subscriptions. Or you do have the ability to subscribe a la carte to just the analytical research feeds and newswire services that you do need. Now, do want to mention that both Reuters event calendars and company fundamentals are now available to all Interactive Broker accounts at no additional charge. I do want you to be aware, though, there are some a la carte subscriptions to premium news services, analyst research, and event calendars that are easily activated by subscription from your account management feature. And TWS users will see the company fundamental windows seamlessly integrated into the Trader Workstation platform, combining research tools with market data, order entry, trade management, and account monitoring all in a single workspace. So with that, let me bring up TWS. And actually, I also want to bring up the daily lineup here so that we can get underway. All right, now, I do want to notice that the daily lineup is a front page layout, and that will open by default when you first launch the Trader Workstation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this into full screen view so that we can take a look at the information that's available on this single page. Now, the daily lineup is a front page layout of the day's upcoming events and top news stories. You can use this to start each trading day with a bird's eye view summary of the day's headlines and notable events with real-time updates throughout the trading day. Now, you can scan this daily lineup for an overview of world markets, as well as, let me see here, as well as economic events, and earnings announcements as well. Now, when you get into the daily lineup, it does open up by default, but let me minimize this as well because I do want to show you it is available from underneath the new window button. Notice that if you go down to IB's information system, you can launch the daily lineup from here. Classic TWS users will find that same information available underneath the analytical tools. Notice as we go down, let me see, I have, and here it is, under fundamentals is where you can find the daily lineup. So either interface that you use with the Trader Workstation, you can easily access at what we're going to be discussing here today. All right, now let me bring up, and I'm going to bring up the daily lineup because I did want to point out a few things here. First of all, colors. Now, background shading and even different tick dot colors give you information at a glance. And if you're unsure what that information is, notice that you can hover over the tick dots and get a tooltip that will give you or remind you of what each of those two represent. Now, notice where we do have background shading of green, it indicates positive movement since the close of business previous business day. You'll also see that we do have world markets. So notice what I'm showing you here is the E-mini S&P. Now you'll see the contract is displayed, and it also shows you a real-time quote. It's going to let you know what the what current prices are. Excuse me. And then notice the tick dot lets you know whether it was the last trade was either on an uptick with a green tick dot or a red or downward with a red tick dot. So keep that in mind. Also, background shading plays a role, and you'll see here the change in price since previous business day and the percentage change that represents. Now, also notice that there are small thumbnail charts, again, to give you that at-a-glance information. Shows you yesterday's data and then today as well. Now notice here that if you click a ticker symbol that's included in the daily lineup, we can switch over from the E-mini S&P to the NASDAQ futures contracts as well. So did want you to see that that's also visible on your screen. Now, in addition to North American markets, a quick view, you'll also find foreign exchange products are discussed here. So if you do want to take a look at what the euro dollar is doing or the British pound, notice that you can make those changes. Now I'm going to jump back up to the top of the page. It's green here, so we'll take a look there. And also want to show you over on the right-hand side, other global regions are available as well. Now you'll notice here there are different background shadings, and what that represents is delayed data. Where you see that yellow tick dot, notice it hovering once again. It's letting you know that you don't hold a market data subscription to these markets, so we do display delayed data. If you do want to subscribe, notice here it is letting you know in that tooltip that you'll need to log into account management to add those subscriptions. But notice here, and you'll see that those markets that don't provide delayed data, question marks will appear instead. Now, also do want to point out in analyst activity, and let me also show you, this tick dot is more of a diamond, where this yellow tick dot here is a square. Slight difference, but when you do see it next to a ticker symbol rather than a real-time quote, what this is showing you is this is information that displays whether this contract is in this is held in your account or in your TWS, either as a position or included in any of your watch lists. That blue tick dot lets you know that it is in a competitor category to something that you do hold within your account. So once again, just keep in mind that those tick dots or those colors do give you information at a glance. Now you'll see that we do include on the daily lineup, notice here that there is a brief market update that comes from briefing.com. You'll be able to read the latest and can actually go in and launch analyst research as well by simply clicking the button that appears up at the top of that individual panel. Now, besides the current market update, also want to point out the economic event calendar is displayed. Now, notice here that if you, when this item or these items do kind of collapse on themselves, if you simply put your cursor between each of the column headers, you can expand so that you can view in real time what the information is letting you know. By the way, there's also a quick click access into our daily calendar of events, or our events calendar. So I'm going to point that out here. Now, also, today's top 10 news articles will be displayed. These are basic news wires, and you'll see each of the headlines will appear. Take a look over on the right-hand side and notice that underneath the ranking selection here, it is also showing you that, notice that one indicates that it is a positive article, 0 would mean neutral, and -1 is a negative sentiment, social sentiment. It appears both in today's top 10 as well as any portfolio news based on positions that you do hold in your account. Now, notice here there's -1s that appear, and on occasion you'll see additional numbers that will let you know the degree of that ranking sentiment as well. Now, moving up to the event calendar, notice no events are scheduled, but not on this page. You do have quick click access to get into the event calendar, and we'll do that in just a moment. So I did want you to see that that's available as well. Now, before we do get off of this page, I want you to be aware that you can close that daily lineup and get it totally out of your way. You can minimize the daily lineup, or you could turn it off completely. It depends on your individual trading preferences. But for right now, I'm just going to minimize that daily lineup. Now, from your Trader workstation, you can also access the event calendar. Now, whether I click the link within the daily lineup or go directly into the event calendar, it opens up within or in a separate window. Now, this window here, notice I'm clicking and dragging the title bar, will display, and on the left-hand side, you have some control with the calendar of events, the information that you may want to filter for, such as show only the companies that are held in your portfolio, or your watch list. Those can be displayed. And then notice the tick dot colors here are also indicated. Now, in the event calendar, notice that this yellow, round yellow tick dot would indicate any ticker symbols over on the right-hand side that were recently held within your account. You'll also see portfolio companies. Those that you do hold in your portfolio will be visible with that blue tick dot. Red tick dots are those that are included on any of your watch lists. And then you'll also see at times a green tick dot, which would indicate a competitor category in any of these additional fields. Now notice the same fields that we saw in the daily lineup are now also visible within the event calendar. Now, before we do get started, you'll see that the event calendar shows you global information, just as we saw within the daily lineup. But notice here that you do have the ability to filter that for certain global regions. So if you want to see U.S. products, and by the way, we also have it separated out for the Americas, but non-U.S. products, there's also Europe and Asia that you can filter. But for right now, what I am going to do is I'll pull up the U.S. products, and now notice that everything that appears on the page will be in reference to U.S. products only. Okay, now also let's point out the calendar that appears up at the top of the screen. Now this calendar here is going to show you, and by the way, take a look at the tick dots in the calendar. Notice here any information that shows up for your portfolio companies or watch list companies will be included within the calendar. I happen to be in a test account, so I won't be able to show you any recently held companies, and we may be able to see this green, and if I put a check mark here, notice that I can also view any competitor companies will be listed for the date that information appears in the event calendars. Now you'll see today's date is highlighted, but if you want to take a look at the future, well, let's go out to Friday the 13th, for example. Simply clicking that item within the calendar will then take us to the corporate earnings, dividends, and economic events as well. So keep in mind that you can view any previous days, but also you can move out into the future as well to take a look at additional items that may appear. Now I'm going to go back to today's date and notice that in this calendar you could filter by company. So if I put that filter on, what I am going to do is I'll go in and put Bristol Myers, for example, and when you click Tab or Enter, you will have to identify that underlying symbol. Keep in mind, notice here that with our floating menu, I could trade this product on the Mexican exchange, or also on the London Stock Exchange represents a different corporation. So you want to be careful here in making that selection. So notice once I do filter by company, you'll see here that all of these items do refer back to Bristol Myers. By the way, and it looks like I've got some some scrunching going on here. So I'm going to put my cursor on the column headers and simply click and drag right to expand the information that we're seeing. So, and here, that gives you a better view of it. All right, now at any point you can, after filtering for criteria, you could also remove that filter and go back to all of the basics. All right, now within this calendar, let's take a look at, now notice over on the right-hand side, each of the different sections included in the event calendar will be displayed separately. Now, notice here I do have corporate earnings. Now, corporate earnings are available, and you'll see those. And let's again, okay, I need to. And what I'm going to do here is actually put this into full screen view, and I think that will help so that I don't have to consistently keep moving my column headers around. Okay, so now when we're looking at the event calendars, you'll see um, uh, uh, first of all, notice we talked about the how you could filter this, and you can add any filters that you want at this point. Also, notice here I'm going to put these items in, and we'll simply activate these. Well, let's go with recently held companies, but we won't see those tick dots actually display. Now, what I'm showing you are the available categories that appear over on the right-hand side. Um, now, whether you filter by company, choose to show only your companies, or choose to show all items, you can design this page or configure this page for your individual trading needs. Okay, now underneath what it is that you want to show, you'll find there's another category here for corporate actions. Actually, it includes 4 subcategories that are displayed, and you can further filter by checking or unchecking any of these items. So, for example, if I do want to see any corporate actions or corporate earnings, it actually brings up the corporate earnings calendar. Notice here those same colored tick dots are indicating, and it looks like I need to expand this section here as well. And let's get and notice that these are showing me competitor categories to those items that I do include within my account. Now, when we bring up the corporate earnings, what you will see are consensus estimates that are provided in advance. And let's see if I can get these to actually expand here as well. Now, those consensus estimates are provided in advance, and actual value will update for the major corporations as soon as they are announced. So notice we're seeing here, and this is these earnings are going to occur after the close. So notice here we do have the consensus, and within milliseconds of the announcement, the actual values will update directly within the event calendars. Any surprises will also be available here, and you can click on any of those items. Now, let me expand this here. In addition to the corporate earnings, I also want to show you that dividend X dates are available. This window will show you, and let's see here where we do have the dividends, and I may turn off these corporate earnings, and let's go into just the dividend section. Now, dividends will show you the declaration date. Well, looks like we're going to have to expand each of these so that you can see all of these. So it does show you the declaration, the payment, the record date, and ex-dividend dates are also included here, as well as an annualized amount for that dividend. Now, keep in mind, these are companies, and what you'll see here is the ex-dividend date as of today, and all of those companies that are now included here. Now, underneath that, you'll also find an economic events calendar. Here is where you can find any economic indicators, events, the FOMC announcements, unemployment, consumer confidence, and so much more is available. Now, keep in mind that I am filtering for just U.S. countries, but you can filter using the selection that's included over on that left navigation panel. Let's see if we can go in. Let me see, and I believe there should be an ADP announcement. So you can actually go in and review any of the items that are included here on the page. Now, in addition, you'll see, let's go in, any splits that may be occurring, it will show, well, we don't have it here, but should a stock split be on the docket for today's date, it will show you the declaration, the payment, the record, and the distribution date with the ratio and description. We don't have it here, but I did want to point out that this is where you could view any of those upcoming stock splits. Now, in addition to those four categories for corporate actions, also be aware that corporate events are available. You can choose to display or hide any major corporate events such as shareholder meetings, conferences, forums, etc. So you'll see all of those will appear in the corporate, in the economic I'm looking at corporate events. Where did we see? Oh, here the corporate events are included up at the top of this page. You can choose to display or hide those major events simply from this window by using the buttons that are included at the bottom on the left-hand side of your screen. So if we go into corporate events, we can hide that or we can turn that on. Economic events are also available that shows you those economic indicators, events, and the FOMC announcements will be in that economic event section. By the way, notice there is an arrowhead that's included here. So if you do want to collapse any of these sections, simply click the arrowhead and it will collapse or it will expand to show you additional information. Now, there's also one additional field here, your options last trade dates, that you can toggle on or off to view or hide those last trade dates for items and as well as turn on the show weekly or short-term option contracts. So a quick look here at the event calendars. Now, what I also want to point out is notice in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, there's also some additional buttons that are available that you can use to isolate the results for the selected time period. Now, we're looking at the current date today, but you could also go in and get a weekly view and notice how instead of showing you all of that individual information, it is going to display in columns so that you can quickly review the information that's included here. Notice that if additional items are available, you can simply click through that button and more will show up. There's also monthly information that will show. And again, this is going to give you a calendar and give you access to those items. For example, notice here our regular dividends. You'll see, let me see, here's a Best of Asia conference. So you can drill down into any of these by simply left-clicking the selection that's included in the calendar. You can even search for particular items in the calendar as well. Okay, no sound. Let me see. I've been going a while, and so I believe there's still sound. So if you would, please let me know that you're still able to hear me, and if it is isolated to a single user. Now, if you are having difficulty with sound, I do suggest that you utilize or close okay, good, William. You are able to hear me. Excellent, thanks. Okay, so for those of you who are having difficulty with audio, keep in mind it could be your email client. Incoming email, especially email with attachments, has the ability to suppress audio on your machine while that information is downloaded locally. So you can alleviate a lot of that by simply closing down your email. Okay, well, let's get back to the rest of the information that we're going to discuss today. Now, notice that you can review prior dates. If you want to go back to a separate date, you'll be able to find information on that particular date when you're looking at a monthly contract, or we could even move forward into, say, for example, May. And notice here those colored tick dots that appear underneath the calendar entry will give you some additional information, whether it's on your portfolio companies, watch list companies, or competitor companies as well. Okay, I'm going to minimize this window and do be aware that you can open it up and leave it open and running in the background. And notice here, if I do go down to my links, I'll simply find these calendars, and it looks like I've got a few of them open. And by the way, as a separate window, you can click and drag this window open and leave it up and running on an alternate monitor that's attached to your computer. also do want you to see, notice there are cheat sheets that are available. If you do have a question or are looking for some information, we do have cheat sheets available for wherever you see that question mark icon that's included in the title bar. This opens up a separate window with call outs to each of the different sections and how to deal with those. By the way, notice at the very bottom of this page, well, first of all, you can scroll. There's more information that's available, but there's also quick access to the event calendar's user guide. And that opened up on my secondary monitor. And this actually takes us right into the user guide. You could open this with additional navigation in the left-hand side of your screen. So here you can find more about each of the selections that are available in the event calendar. Okay, now I also do want to move on because you'll see, and I'm simply going to minimize this for right now, and notice that news is displayed in the mosaic in the news window. You can also activate news in the classic version of TWS. This will allow you to view real-time news, and notice as these headlines are printed, they're actually displayed in real time within your version of TWS. You'll find the source is included. Notice here the time, the source, and this would be Zacks, the symbol, as well as the headline. Notice that ranking is also included here. Now, if you do want to delve further into reading that article, simply click the headline and you'll see it opens up in a separate window. Now, this window has the headline that we just were looking at, and I do want to point out that notice with black text or black background and white text, if that is difficult for you to read, notice there's an icon that's included in the title bar that will take you right out to your web browser where you can read that exact article in a browser rather than directly within TWS. So a quick mention here. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Now, also, by the way, you'll find that there are tabs that are included in that news window that will allow you to isolate information for general market news, which is what I have here, for portfolio news or positions that you hold within your account. Oh, and by the way, whenever you see that flame that's indicated here, it's letting you know that the news provider feels that this is a hot topic. So I'll simply click through that topic and you can then read through that article as well. And then that last item here is for positions that are held in your portfolio. So if you do have, or when you do have a particular ticker symbol in or in focus here, you can simply click through and see articles specific to that particular ticker symbol. So now, in addition, there is a plus tab that's available as well. Other articles or other news providers can be added here. For example, you may want to see, by the way, Bloomberg TV. You can even run Bloomberg TV directly within the news window. Notice, though, there is a daily viewing time limitation of only 12 hours. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply close that particular item out. We'll go ahead and close. I'm not going to run the TV section today, but you have access to it, so give it a try. Now, also on that plus icon, I wanted to mention there is social sentiment. Now, this social sentiment, notice here, is going to pop up and you'll see that ranking that is letting you know the difference between positive and negative social media news headlines by company. Notice here you can also filter or search for specific ticker symbols if you want to add that as well. Now, I'm also going to use that plus because there's other information, for example, market signals. These market signals will give you general information about price spikes, irregular volume spikes, 52-week highs or lows can be included in here, and you'll see the time that it was announced, the source, as well as the ticker symbol that's affected here. So notice if you're looking for price spikes, um, option volume spikes, you can actually even filter by going into that configuration wrench. We'll go into the settings, and this opens up a window that will allow you to configure certain subject fields. Simply clicking through that button, and notice here those signals are available, and you can choose which ones that you do want to see. So if you aren't interested, or if you are interested, say for example, you might only want to see those that gap at the open. We'll go ahead and click Save, and then Apply and OK. And that then, notice how I've just filtered for that specific market signal. You can go in and make changes throughout the day for anything that you're looking for in particular as well. Now, let's go back in because you'll see even more information is available. I do want to point out stock twits. Stock twits will display information for those that are interested in what's happening right now. So you'll see real-time information is displayed and included in this screen here. So a lot is available on this window. Now you'll see when you have exceeded the number of tabs that can be displayed in that news item, it will, by simply hovering over any of those tabs that are displayed, you'll see pop up additional tabs that you can access very easily. Now I'm going to point out one more item. For example, we also have just recently launched an IB Quant blog. If you'd like to read the articles that are in here, notice you'll see that as well. And the source is now listed as IBQB. So a quick mention there. Now, as I take a look, and I'm going to hover over this, and let's go back into notice I'll go into general market information. And I also do want to point out that configuration wrench will allow you to go in and configure each of the tabs that you do have displayed. Now you'll see when I do come in, this tab is set up as the market group, or I could go into the various news wires here that will be displayed. Now you'll see at the top of this window, you can actually, well, in this case here, we're looking at our general news wire. I'm sorry, I did go to the portfolio page, and it's already selected. Now you can choose to show portfolio companies, but you might also want to add news related to competitors in the same category. So do keep that in mind. Now you also have the ability to create a custom ticker list and also include related competitors related by category as well. So I wanted to point that out. Now, as we go down, and I do want to show at the very bottom of this window, all of the different news providers. You'll see you can activate each of these and they will show up. Now, what I'll do is simply go into general news, and if I want that included, for example, that IB Quant blog, I can simply add that directly within the news articles that are displayed. Now, each of these separate news providers can also be configured. So for example, and let me see, there's Reuters Global Financial Markets. If you do want to go in, let me see, that's not a configurable section. Well, let's go in into those Reuters Street events, for example. You'll be able to go in, well, that's not showing either. Let me see if I can find one. Well, let's go into Dow Jones. Well, looks like I'm having a bit of difficulty with my configuration screen, so I'm just going to skip over this, but I do want you to see that, notice those items that you either subscribe to or are provided at no additional charge can be configured. Those that are grayed out here are not part of your access in TWS, but you can go out to account management and activate any of these additional features at any time. So let's go ahead and we'll close out of that window. All right. So now the news So news is available as well. Now, the next thing that I do want to point out is analyst research. Now, it used to be included as a tab up at the top of the page, but since adding iBot and the frequently or your FYIs, you'll find that if you do want to go into analyst research, it's available now in that new window drop-down menu. Now, you'll see here there's selections, for example, analyst actions. And this here will show you or summarize upgrade and downgrade activity for companies, including those that you hold in your watch list or portfolio, and competitors in the category. Notice here we're seeing quite a few additional tick dots that are displayed. Now, you'll see when you open this up that in the upper portion of the window, you'll see that upgrade and downgrade activity, and the lower panel will actually provide the details here. So, for example, the rating could be changed from a hold to a buy, from neutral to outperform, so you can view the actual details at the very bottom of this analyst action screen. I'm going to close out of that. Let's go back into and we'll go back into analyst research. Let's pull that up again. I need to move across, then up. There's also recent publications. Now, this will provide a link to recent publications from your subscribed providers. You can use the ticker. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get these items displayed. I'm going to try and, well, you'll be able to see when it was, and you can also locate information on a specific corporation by simply entering a ticker symbol that appears up at the top of the screen, upper right-hand corner. Now, there's also a company report filter. Notice here, by the way, we could go in and take a look at even more information. So quite a bit is included on this page. Let's go back, and I'm going to put this back into my windowed view, or simply close out of this particular item. Now, when you go back through that new window button, notice here that analyst research does show you the research providers that you have subscribed to. These are all that are included in my version of TWS. But notice there's quite a few additional providers that are available, and you will need to go to account management to subscribe to these providers. Now, also, for a moment, let me bring up the website, because pricing, of course, everything does have to deal with pricing. So I'm going to bring up the Interactive Broker website and go to the pricing menu, where you can find information about research, news, and market data. Clicking that link, you'll find icons that are included on the top of the page. For example, research and news. This tells you a little bit about our platform, and you can always drill down to learn additional information by clicking any of these links. Now, did want you to see that free services, and we have quite a few. You'll see that these are available to each of you at no additional price. So where we saw that briefing.com, that is part of your basic version of TWS. And all of these additional providers are available. Now, I do want to point out some of these items are available for active or free for active accounts. And active accounts in TWS do refer to those of you who generate $30 in commission fees on a monthly basis, that those stock twists or any of these others are available. Now, you'll see some additional services are bundled, and we'll talk about the fundamentals here that are available through Thomson Reuters. Now, notice that there's certain bundles that we do use, and and this one, our research bundle here is going to show the top 7 research providers that are included in TWS. So they have been bundled together for a reduced subscription amount. Now, do want to point out market data and research is provided based on professional or non-professional rates. Now, professionals typically are those institutional accounts, or if you have access to trade multiple different client accounts. Non-professional fees are for those of you who trade for yourself and typically do not trade for anyone else. So there's an explanation that's included on the website, and I think it's probably even further down on this page, where you can view the differences between non-professional and professional. But depending on your account type, you'll see that notice here are the subscriptions that will be applied. Now, when we get to market or to our research subscriptions, I do want to point out that all of them do include a 30-day, a one-time 30-day free trial period. So if you do want to try out a different not news, but a different research provider, you can simply click through that free trial and review the information for the next 30 days. Now, at the end of that period, your subscription will expire. And do keep in mind that if you want to renew that subscription, it's charged on a monthly basis. So if you are going to be utilizing the market or the research products, you want to subscribe to those early in the month or unsubscribe if you no longer have a need before that month ends, because market data and research providers, any of those subscriptions are charged on a monthly basis. If that subscription is available during the month, you're charged the complete amount. We do not prorate those fees. So you'll see here that all of this is included in that bundled package, or you do have the ability to subscribe to them a la carte. And here we do have the a la carte subscription prices. So depending on what you're looking for, you can give it a try. And if it's something that you can incorporate in your daily trading, then you can subscribe to those providers here. Okay. So let's also, what I do want to mention here, and I'm just going to go out to Hedgeye, for example. Each of those icons that are included will bring you to a page that's devoted to that research provider. You can read a little bit more about what their specialty is. You can view a sample report, or even go out to their website by simply clicking the icon that's included on the pricing menu. Okay, so let's minimize that and we'll get back into Trader Workstation, because there's also fundamental research that's available in TWS. Now, once again, you'll be able to find that under the new window button. Go down to the fundamentals and notice here that there are several different sections that are available. Now, we'll see in just a moment. I'll launch the fundamentals, but before I do, you can actually access those by simply right-clicking. I'm going to choose a ticker symbol and going into the analytical tools. Now notice there is access to social sentiment. The event calendars are in here, and then there's also company fundamentals. If you want access to analyst research, notice that you can quickly access that from this drop-down menu, or right-click menu, I should say. Now, going into the company fundamentals, you'll see that when I launch that, it actually opens up in a separate window. Now, this window, and notice the icon that's included here, is going to give you general information about the ticker symbol that you do have in focus. Now, I am running this from the Mosaic page and want to point out the colored linking icon that's available. With that color linking icon, because it's already set up on the platform, you'll see that when I right-click on a ticker symbol, it brings up that ticker in focus in the company fundamentals. Now, included at the top of this window, and I call it my title bar dashboard drop-down, notice first of all, there is a corporate summary. This first page, or the primary page, provides expanded business and financial overviews for the selected corporation. It also gives you some snapshot views of key financial ratios. You'll also find here any analyst estimates are included, analyst forecasts. Notice here, the stock description includes industry category and sector, I should mention. There's also some details, the number of employees, as well as any corporate officers, and it includes a link to their, well, in this one here, there should be a link to the website as well. I'm not seeing it directly on this page, but notice the contact information is included below. Also, you can view holdings and short interest. Now, notice that each of these items are included. There's a More button where you can access that More directly from the drop-down menu at the top of or in that dashboard drop-down. From the summary, also want to show you there are multiple pages that are included in this separate window. I've just opened up the financial summary, which displays a 6-year chart in the top portion of this window. You can hover. Notice when I hover over the chart, data points are visible and will allow me to view details such as the date, the price. Let me see if I can move over here. I'll need to activate those as well. There's several buttons, so we can see the stock price, the revenue, earnings per share, even the dividend can all be added. By the way, notice that the text color and the line color will correspond. So this way you'll be able to see all of this information on your selected underlying. Also notice that the previous 5 fiscal years are included. So you can see going back to 2013, revenue, EPS, and dividend amounts. Now, notice that you can choose to display this as the actual amount or in percentage terms. So you can toggle back and forth for the information that you're seeing on this page. Now, while we are reviewing the quarterly information for each of those previous fiscal years, you can also go up and choose to review this for the previous 12 months. So there's quite a bit of flexibility on this page. Now, moving on, you can also view ownership. This is going to display detailed insider and institutional ownership statistics that you can incorporate in any of those investment strategies. This window provides detailed institutional and insider ownership, as well as a graph of the ownership percentage over time. And you can also view the different trade logs, those insider trade logs, to get additional information. Okay. By the way, keep in mind that you can view or turn off any of the items that are included in that chart. By the way, the ownership summary is going to show you your insider ownership, and wherever you see those icons, hovering over those icons will open up a tooltip that defines the insider shares owned, insider percent owned, as well as, notice here, the percentage of the float. All right, going back up to the top, let's go into short interest. Now, well, I don't have that on this particular page, so I'm going to skip right beyond that. And let's go into Wall Street Horizon's corporate event calendar. Now, this is one of those additional items that are available by subscription through your account management system. It is an optional subscription, but does provide extensive earnings and event calendars on companies around the world. Now, upcoming earnings dates, notice here you can view your upcoming earnings dates as well as the time and URLs where they are provided, along with the direct links to earnings and call transcripts. Notice here, this one is coming up on May 1st. You can view the information directly within this window. It also is going to display, and let me see, the shareholder meeting is what's coming up in April. So notice how that's highlighted in the calendar. Should I move forward a month into May, you'll see the earnings call is also highlighted within the calendar. Now, at the same time, let's go back to our April event. Notice that at the bottom of this window, it also shows you events related to other or competitors that appear in the same category. So you also can view that competitor information. By the way, where you see the calendar, notice here that you can also set certain alerts. Now, this alert is a date-based alert, and it will all automatically open up our alerts feature and will send you that. And notice here, you can set that time. Now, if you click the calendar icon, notice that this will allow you, and I might not want this for April, but maybe for May. So I'll go ahead and make that selection. And then notice here, depending on the date or the time that's indicated, you can set this for a specific time, whether it's pre-open, and notice here that alert will sound outside of regular trading hours, or after the close. Simply use these buttons here to define when that alert will trigger. By the way, I'm going to simply cancel out of this. Also did want you to see that advanced settings are available, so you can open up the event calendar and create multiple different conditions for those events. And notice here, I'm going to move this out of the way. You can even create an order, click and drag it into that alert, and then set it. So notice here with on alert, there is a selection. Well, I'll cancel this. The selection here is whether to on trigger, once that alert triggers, if you want to send a trade or cancel an existing trade. So there's some increased capabilities there. I'm simply going to close out of that event detail. By the way, when you do hold this subscription, what I am going to do is let's put this aside for just a moment. I'm going to open up the account window, because if you do have that subscription, what I am going to do is let's go into the account window and notice at the very bottom. Well, first of all, this window displays your account balances, margin requirements, and what you have available for trading. You can also view market value by asset class, that is totaled in the currencies that they trade in, and then totaled not only in your base currency, but also a total as well. But as I come down to the very bottom, I did want to point out the calendar. Now, I'm clicking this will actually take a few minutes for it to populate, but if you do want to see those earnings dates that will soon be announced, you can actually run this for all positions that are included in your portfolio. So did want you to see that that's available directly from the account window. But wherever you are in TWS, if you do have, you'll see I've got quite a few equity ticker symbols here. Notice that what I can do is I'm going to go in and insert a column, and we'll come down to the Wall Street Horizons corporate event calendar, where I may want to, let's move straight across, view the upcoming earnings. By adding that, notice how it adds an additional column directly into your quote watch list, and here you'll see those upcoming earnings dates for each of the ticker symbols that I do have displayed. Now, the beauty about adding these to any of your watch lists is notice that you can sort and resort the information by clicking the column header. What I'm going to do is sort so that I see the upcoming corporations, earnings dates that are in the near future for whatever watch list that I do hold. So even once you do subscribe, notice how you can utilize a lot of that data throughout the rest of TWS. Well, let's go back into our, let me go into our company fundamentals. And here we are. I'm going to pull up the fundamentals again. Okay, going back to the top of this list, let me see here. There's a dividend calendar. Now, keep in mind that this dividend calendar is different from the events calendar that we saw before. Remember, the events calendar was based on those dividends or those corporations whose ex-dividend date was today. When you go through the company fundamentals, you're looking at the dividend schedule for the corporation that we currently have in focus. Now here, you can view the information on a 12-month dividend yield, and notice there's a question mark icon that will let you know when that was calculated. Those dividends that have gone X in the trailing 12 months. Notice here will be displayed. You can also see the percentage dividend growth over the previous year. So notice that that's available. But also, not only are you looking at historical or 5 years worth of historical dividends, special dividends are included as well as the regular dividends so that you can see if it is or if those dividends are gradually increasing in amount. Now, one other item that's available on this page are upcoming dividends. These upcoming dividends are going to display those ex-dividend dates and the type, whether it's a regular dividend, and the estimated amount that's available as well. So you can view forecasted as well as historical dividends directly in company fundamentals. Now, from here, also, let's go into analyst ratings. There's two analyst ratings in summary, which pops up, and notice here how it does include a separate page. Now, staying on top of analyst activity is a necessity in world markets today, where upgrades and downgrades will move the markets. Now, you'll see on this page, sell-side analyst ratings provides you with a summary rating. You'll see the, notice the different ratings are included here with upgrade and downgrade history. Also, different target prices will be included. And the graph illustrates the mean rating history. Notice we're looking at the stock price and the average rating. We could go into the buy and sell, hold, buy, sell, and hold distribution. And notice how colors do come into play here that do correspond as well. And we could also even go into that mean price target. So a lot can display on the graphs up at the top of the page. And by the way, notice as you move your cursor through the chart, simply hover and rest, and it will pop up a tooltip that gives you some additional information here. Now, going back to our summary, let's go into the ratings detail. And here is where you can see the most recent rating recommendations for the contract that you've selected. Notice these current selections 1 week ago, a month, 2 months, and a year ago, and see what that mean label is for the ticker symbol that you've selected. By the way, notice at the bottom of this screen, we're currently showing all ratings. You can go into briefing.com and you'll see, notice here, those analyst actions, or isolate to Street Insider as well, or simply choose both. By the way, notice the ranking is also included where available over on the right-hand side of your screen. Okay, back to the top of the window, I want to take you to a page where you're seeing key financial ratios. Now, these ratios focus on a company's valuation measures, such as price to earnings ratio. Notice, let's see here, we've got that price, the different valuation. There's different price to sales. So all of these ratios are displayed. Now, notice here there's an information icon that's included. And here you'll see simply hovering over these icons, how a tooltip pops up with either the last available date or where the information did happen to come from. Now, also want to point out these anagrams. Now, what is TTM? Well, if you take a look over to the right-hand side, that information icon will show you that in this case, it's the adjusted income available for the trailing 12 months, or the interval TTM. MRY indicates the most recent year, whereas MRQ indicates the most recent quarter. You'll also notice N12, and I'm simply going to hover over this. It's the next or the upcoming 12 months, the next 12 months. So there's quite a bit of information that's available, and you can find how these are calculated as well as the interval that's being measured. Now, something else that I do want to show you as well, I'm simply going, well, let's minimize this screen because all of this is also available within TWS. Now, first of all, what I am going to do is go into your global configuration and let's set here I'm going to go into the display settings, and I'm sorry, and it's actually ticker row displays. What I want to show you is that when you double click on a financial instrument, it will open up the contract details. Now, typically this is change the contract, so if you double click on a ticker symbol and it opens up a blank box, that allows you to input a new ticker symbol. But if you change that to open contract details, click apply and OK. Notice when I double click on Amazon, for example, I get a description window of the underlying equity or the underlying corporation or any of those tickers. You'll also see those key financial ratios are included here, the same information that we just saw in the company fundamentals, but it also includes additional, and notice here, I'll go into that financial summary, which is just another way of launching our company fundamentals. So did want to show you that. If you do want to view, by the way, that works. Let me minimize this for a moment. That works on other ticker symbols as well. So you'll see here where I do double click on the E-mini S&P for a futures contract. It's not an equity, so we don't have those company fundamentals, but what it does include are basic information about the ticker symbol that you're looking at, trading hours, outside of regular trading hours, as well as your current margin requirements. So that's a simple right click, go into configure your display settings for a ticker row, and you can turn on open up contract details that will give you the information as well as a quick link to get back to your company fundamentals. Okay, now, so after we took a look at the financial summary, notice here you can actually even get into your financial statements. So in other words, you can view income statements, but also notice there's a drop-down menu here where you could view balance sheets as well as cash flow statements for the previous five years, or we see those 5 annual periods, or notice as well a drop-down menu will allow me to go in and view that information on a quarterly basis as well. Back to the top of this screen, there's so much here. Let's go into analyst forecasts. Now, these forecasts will give you consensus estimates on each of these additional fields, and notice fiscal years or quarterly information is displayed. Now, notice at the top you could not only view consensus estimates, but could go into the estimates trend. So here, again, a lot of information, and don't forget the scroll bar. There's quite a bit over on the right-hand side. All right, back to our drop-down menu. The last item that I did want to mention here is similar products. Now, similar products will allow you to view market scanners. You'll see this brings up a market scanner, but the information that's going to be displayed here is based on corporations, or you can find the top corporations in the same industry sector, and then customize the filtering criteria using that configuration wrench. Now, these are similar to the advanced market scanners and available in classic TWS, but notice here there are some limited scanners that are available. Just those that are displayed will appear within the company fundamentals, but notice that you can go in and let's simply choose, for example, the most active in the sector. Notice how it lights up those buttons on the right-hand side where you could add this particular item or simply edit it and add any additional filters. Notice the parameters that are available will be displayed on the left-hand side, and then you can also filter by price, whether it's greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, in the range, or within a particular range. And when we do select, I'm going to choose the range. Notice here how that will open up multiple windows, so you can select the from and the to date here, as well as uh, let's go back in and notice here when I go back to the price greater than, you would have to select a certain amount within this window. You can also notice here that you could filter by those in the same sector or choose a particular sector within the category. So let's go into communications, for example. So I could put, well, let me see, we're not in communications. Oh, well, we're in uh, so let's, instead of communications, let's go back into our tech field. So I'm going to bring up technology. Yeah, there, I got it. And then you can also choose the industry. So whether it's computers, software, let's go into software here. Each time you make a selection, it will activate if there are additional selections that are available. So notice I could continue to drill down with the criteria and specify whether it's computer software, graphics, etc. Now, also, there are additional filters that can be added, such as current volume rates, and you can put in a particular amount within this that will filter out those volumes that are less than the amount that you enter here. There's also some additional filters, and notice here the filters that are available, there's quite a few of them, have to do with some of our research providers as well as some of our technical analysis indicators can also be added on this screen. So if you do have any specific criteria that you want to view within that market scanner, simply put a for example, notice here, I might want to add dividends. I'll go ahead and click OK. Once I click OK, let me see. Well, it should provide it, and let me see if I can close out of this window. Well, I'm not going to wait for that. I think there's a little bit of latency, but what that will do is it adds that as criteria within your scanners. So once you've set that information, simply clicking OK will launch, and notice I'm going to close out of this window. I now have similar products to the ticker symbol that I do have in focus, and you'll see all of that information as well as the dividend is now available. Any of these columns you can add or remove by simply going into your configuration wrench head that's included. Now, also, by the way, notice that in this window here that some of those competitors that are in the same industry, you'll see that some of these are in bold. Those items that are included in bold indicate that there are associated options that are included for that underlying ticker symbol. You'll see no options would be available for any of those that are unbolded within this section. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to close out of that window and just did want you to see that that's one of the other items that's included within your company fundamentals. Okay, one more feature that I also did want to show you is that, and where you can access that is, what it is that we're looking for are the SEC filings. SEC has a substantial repository of financial information provided by the Securities and Exchange Commission. We didn't see it in our company fundamentals, but by right-clicking on a ticker symbol, notice here if you go into the analytical tools, I'm going to point to that arrowhead. The arrowhead will expand that menu and show you certain features that will be there that are currently disabled or inactive on your version of TWS. For example, those SEC filings. While it may be inactive, it doesn't mean it's not available. It just means it's not included in any of that the drop-down list when you first access it. Now, I did just bring it up and it opened up on my other screen. Notice how this will actually take you to sec.gov for the selected ticker symbol or corporation. And here is where you can access all those SEC filings for the past year with drill down access into the actual document. So if you're looking for the 8K or the 10K, notice that you can simply click this link and it will display that document here as well. All right. And one more item that I do want to point out, since we are talking about fundamentals, and I did mention that those fundamentals are available in your market scanners. So while we saw market scanners included in that fundamental, also want to show you that where you do have market scanners that are available, I'm simply going to, in Mosaic, it's using the plus icon. It will open up another tab that gives you a list of available scanners. Now, let me go into U.S. movers, for example, and notice how this then creates a dual sorted scan. Those with the greatest negative movement are included on the left, and those with the greatest positive movement are included on the right. But you also do have the ability to customize. Now, based on what it is that you're looking for, or if you do want to utilize any of the market data, or I'm sorry, the research fields and fundamentals that we've looked at earlier today, notice how going into the add field, you can add popular fundamentals. The different categories of information are available. So where we saw we could add the upcoming corporate events to any of our watch lists, you could also add, say, for example, price to earnings ratio. We'll add that. It then appears and will populate on this particular page. I do have, I'm going to choose not to show this again. By the way, this message here means that I'm displaying, or I have on this particular list, more than 100 ticker symbols, but yet you'll see that, well, I'm over by one, but that means when you do have more than those 100 active ticker symbols, you will not get real-time data, or will not be able to, there are certain features that are disabled because the data is not appearing in real time. But you can always go out and request more, or simply choose additional filtering criteria for those scanners to keep the results to 100 tickers or less. So I'll go ahead and close out of that. All right, so another place that you can use company fundamentals throughout TWS. All right, now I do have a quick, I'm not seeing any, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm not seeing any questions that have come in via that questions panel. Now's the time to add those questions if you do have any. So while I'm waiting for any additional questions, I do want to also point out, and let's pull up the Interactive Broker website. I'm going to go to, well, not directly to our user guide, but let's go to the home page here, because today's event has been recorded, and you'll be able to access today's recording using the drop-down menu that's included underneath the education section. Go into our webinars. Now, notice here you can join, register for any upcoming webinars by simply clicking this link, or to go in and review any of our recorded webinars. Notice how previous webinars done this week will be included here, but if you're looking for something in particular, and let me oh, let me see. It looks like I didn't post charts. So what I am going to do is put charts in here, and we'll go ahead and then search. And what this Traders University will do, let's see, it's going to, oh, I'll have to go back in and activate my charts, but looks like charts was a bad category. So let's put in, so I'll put in fundamental, and then do a search, and notice here that prior version is available. So if you do want to go in by the way, and review any of the content discussed, simply click this link. But I also do want to point out that I will be adding the webinar notes or link, direct link to the webinar notes when I send the follow-up messages out later today. So the information that we've been discussing with our event calendars, the daily lineup, the news articles, the analyst research, and then the fundamental information is also going to be displayed here. So if you do want to pull this up and utilize as a cheat sheet as you're going through the information, it's there and available for you. All right. Oh, Stephen does have a question. Is it possible to get up to 10 years of financial statements instead of just the 6? Sorry, Stephen. Through TWS, that's all that we do provide available within the platform. So sorry about that. Yes, but 6 is the maximum that you're able to access. Okay, well, with that, I'm not seeing any additional questions. So that does bring us to the end of today's presentation. You can all exit using the X in the upper right-hand corner of your screen and watch your inbox later on today for a direct link to the playback. Okay, Marianne's got a question. On the pre-recorded videos, the screen information is very small, making it hard to read. Is there a way to expand that? Well, on this window here, unfortunately, when you do go into the education menu, it will not, you'll see here that it is very tiny to read. But I do want to let you know when you are, or when you do receive the follow-up message today, what I will have available on there, and I'm going to bring that up, is access to our recordings. So let me actually just open that up on the other screen. So I will be providing you with a link to other recordings, and it actually takes you to this page, Marianne. So I suggest utilizing this link rather than going directly to the education page. You'll see this is included in the follow-up message. If you do want to review any of this information, notice how it's organized by different categories. So those that I do on Trader Workstation are available here. And TWS charts is listed in here. I'll have to go check and see why it's not showing up. But that was yesterday's. Oh, no, that looks like that's the upcoming information. So let me go back. Let me go back a window. And that would be our upcoming events. Let me go in here. I thought these were, these are our recordings. That was, well, I'll have to check on that. But any of these other items, for example, if you want to take a look at our web trader feature, our book trader, or any of these other items, simply click the link here and it will take you directly to the recording. Webinar notes that are available are also listed on the right-hand side. So watch for the link that I send you in the follow-up message, and I think you'll be able to, you can bookmark that to locate any of our upcoming events. And let me see here, I should be putting that in as an upcoming event or any of our, so here, as we do go in, I'm simply going to refresh the page and notice that this then takes you to upcoming information. I think I know why that charts webinar is not showing up, so I did want to point that out. But you can use it's 2226 and 2227, where you can view either our upcoming events or our previous recordings. Okay, presentations are excellent. Well, thank you so much, Marianne. Winnie's got a question. Is there any information for pre-market activities in the morning, or is it just updated in the daily lineup? Well, when you do get come into TWS, you'll find that certain information, and let's pull up the Trader Workstation. So what you will be seeing, and notice here how it will show the last trading, or the let me see if I can find information. Let me go back into my favorites, for example. What you will be able to see is basically the closing price previous business day, but the fundamentals will be there and quite a bit of other information. It's just the real-time quotes do start when the markets open, but you'll be able to access any of those news articles on general market information or your portfolio. Notice that You can access any of the company fundamentals, even the event calendar will all be available for you in the pre-market open. So you may want to take a look at that. But yes, there's quite a bit of information. You can even create and set up trades within TWS prior to the markets open. Now, we do a separate section on all of that order types or order entry within the Trader Workstation. So hopefully you can join me on an upcoming event or simply access any of those prior recordings. All right. Well, with that, let's see, any other questions that are coming in? Well, I just see some thank yous, and I want to thank all of you for participating with me here this afternoon. And thank you for the time that you have spent. You can exit today's session using the X in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and do remember to trade smart. Until the next time, thanks so much.